They say it can't be done. They say it can't be done. Well, guess what? I think it can. If I'm going to take a stance, which I don't do often, I'm going to take a stance on frequency. I'm going to take a stance on that if you want to get better at X, you got to do X more. And in this case, we're talking about the deadlift. I'm passionate, I'm fired up, and I want to drop some knowledge bombs on Gainesville. Okay, we're going to blow up Gainesville. So, you hear it all the time. You can't deadlift more than one time per week. If you deadlift one time per week, that's all you need. If you do it more, you're gonna die, okay? Your spine will literally rip out of your back and explode all over on the wall at the gym, okay? This is the things that we hear. These are the things that flood our brain, and I'm tired of it. So, let's go. Coach Joe, Lion's Den, teaching you, the viewer, the one trying to get a huge deadlift or huge anything, all right? This will work for anything, and I mean anything. We're going to be talking about the deadlift, okay? Blowing up the deadlift. Subscribe. 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 Thanks. All right, guys, so breaking down this video, this is purely going to be anecdotal, okay? What has worked for me and all of the athletes that I program for, which is hundreds at this point, and what I have found in pretty much 99% of the cases on working on increasing X lift, in this case the deadlift, increasing the frequency has been best, okay? So all frequency is how often you do something. So if you are looking at the deadlift, it could be deadlifting one time per week with a frequency of 1, okay? If we pull twice a week, the frequency is 2. If we pull 3 times a week, the frequency is gonna be 3. All right, so for me personally, on my journey, just going back, I was deadlifting one time per week, and it worked, okay? I was getting better. Much like a lot of you guys when you first start, you're getting better, okay? Because we're getting those newbie gains. Every session we seem to just keep increasing. And then at some point that progress stops, okay? And this is where you have to make the decision. Do I continue doing what I'm doing, or do I change it up to get a different response? And for years, I actually stuck with doing the same thing, expecting a different result. Okay, no bueno, doesn't work, don't recommend it. So this is why I'm making the video, to give you some wisdom from within to help you. And what had worked for me is when I got with a coach, Alan Thrall, who's part of Barbell Medicine team, and they were big fans of frequency. And at first, I was like, no way, Mr. Thrall, is this gonna happen? Because I've heard on the interwebs with all these Google geniuses out there that you can only deadlift one time per week. Anything more, you're gonna fry your CNS like an egg, and you are gonna put yourself in a horrible position and not make progress. But Thrall, because he's Thrall in, he had said, trust the process. Well, lo and behold, I listened, and my deadlift went from about 600 pounds to 750 pounds in a pretty short time frame. It would have been way longer if I wasn't open-minded to this discussion, to this approach, and that's why we're sharing it, okay? So that's just the background on the story, guys. So open your minds to the possibilities, all right? So let's get right into how we're gonna do this. All right, so there are 3 things I have on the board, okay? First one we talked about, increasing frequency. So typically if you guys are on that one time per week with the deadlift, I want to increase the dose. We can start with twice a week, okay? Maybe run that for a block or 2, and then maybe we'll even get to 3 times per week. But if 2 works for you, stick with 2 until it no longer works, okay? I'd rather you guys do that than hop right from 1 to 3, because that may be too much, right? It's just like when we have a goal and we're like, okay, I want to lose 30 pounds in a month. I probably say, yo, bro, chill. Slow it down. How about we do 1 pound, 2 pound per week, okay? So same thing with the frequency here. If you're at 1, go to 2. If you're at 2, bump it to 3, or in your program structure, the first 2 blocks, I'm just gonna have a pulling frequency of 2, and then in the last couple blocks, I'm gonna increase it to 3 and see how that works. And you can always change this. This may not work for you. If it doesn't, okay, give the video a big fat thumbs down, all right? I'll accept those thumbs down because they're honest and they're true. Everybody else in here, watch the video for 5 seconds, give me a thumbs down, you guys suck. So, when we look at the frequency, say I pull 3 times per week, which I do. This is how I personally set it up and how typically I'll structure it for my clients that I work with. Day 1, Okay, so the first day of your training is what we want to put the most emphasis and energy into, all right? A lot of people deadlift like towards the end of the week, and if that's your main goal to get better at, why are you waiting to the end of the week when you're fatigued and other things have already been prioritized? No, we want to put that movement as day one. So Monday, when I come in and train, the first movement I do is going to be a deadlift. Now for me, since I'm trying to get better at a conventional deadlift, that is the variation that I'm going to be doing, all right? Now, later in the week, so say I pull, if I do a 4-day split, okay, day one's gonna be deadlift, day two, maybe squats or something, I have off, and then day three, so for me, is typically a Thursday, I'm gonna do a variation, okay? And I like to keep it simple. Let's just make the variation something that is going to make our weak point in our lift stronger, okay? So for you, if it's you get stuck around knee or below knee, maybe some block pulls will be a good suggestion for you. Okay, so that's going to be our variation day. Maybe for you, it's just keeping good tension as you are lifting the bar off the floor. So maybe some bands are going to be nice for you to throw in there. Okay, but just any variation that's going to help work on your sticky point or weak point. Easy way to establish that is just see where you break down or where you have issues when you're going for heavy reps and loads. So that's day two. Now day three, which is probably going to be on day four, the last day of my training, is going to be some back work. Okay, so that could be pulling of rows, right? That could be some sort of lat pull down, some accessory that way, or if your body can tolerate it, you may want to do some RDLs. Maybe it's going to be the barbell, maybe it's going to be dumbbells, but that's going to be a little bit better because it's mimicking the movement we want to get better at. It's increasing the frequency that's very close to what we're trying to improve on. Okay, so that's the first one, increasing the frequency. The second one we have to consider, which a lot of these points are going to overlap just a little bit, but I'm going to dive deeper into them, is variation. So some questions you want to ask yourself is how far out am I from the competition or when I need to test this? So for me, like I said, my first day may be my comp lift, but that's going to be typically probably, let's say, 16 or to 12 weeks out from testing. Now, if I had 20 plus weeks, maybe that first day isn't going to be a conventional deadlift. Maybe it is going to be a sumo deadlift. Maybe it's going to be a trap bar deadlift. Maybe it will be a conventional stance, but there's just going to be some variable about that variation that's going to be slightly different, okay? Because the way I think about this, I'm kind of bringing you guys into my mind with this video, and hopefully you're digging it if you are subscribed, is that we are, so far out that we can work on all these other portions of the lift, different variations, build lots of good volume, and then as we reintroduce this novel stimulus, which is going to be the conventional deadlift, after doing all these variations, it's going to be super easy, right? We have a typical deadlift, conventional deadlift, boom. But if we were doing things like bands and chains, doing trap bar, block pulls, all these different variations, and then as we get closer to the test where we're just focusing on a conventional deadlift, all those other things are going to build this deadlift lift to be super strong and really good. So if you're further out, you have more options to play with variations. If you're closer, I would say day one, make the competition deadlift going to be specific to whatever you are testing yourself on. The other thing is going to be specificity. So if you're a sumo puller, right, and you're getting close to competition, don't be pulling conventional on the main day, or don't be doing like conventional deadlifts or tons of other variations that aren't close to whatever it is you're trying to be specific at. Okay, that's like one of the most common things is if we want to test something, right, we need to get better at that movement pattern. So stop wasting time on things that aren't going to help with that movement pattern in that test. So specificity is always going to be key. Now another part of the variation is sometimes just what do you like to do? Right? If we like to do something more, we're going to be more motivated to train. I think it goes a long way. There's going to be some people out there who are going to be like, no, you got to do the stuff you hate, right? Because that's going to make you tough. Hashtag stay in your comfort zone. Hashtag stay hard. Blah, 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 right? That's cool. I get that. You're hardcore, bro. Do you. But guess what? For the majority of us, sometimes getting in the gym is challenging. Sometimes, deadlifting, and especially if we're not used to deadlifting more than one time per week, it's going to be just difficult. So pick something that you enjoy to do. Pick something that interests you. Something that's going to make going to the gym and pulling more fun, okay? We've been digging the trap bar, right, for whatever reason. But guess what? We're pushing harder than ever because we're doing some things that we like, and it's increasing the training environment, the training stimulus. Therefore, we're going to get some great results. So do things that you like, and then also think about what you are weak at. Like I talked about for that second day variation, look at whatever, weak area is in that lift. You can simply Google, ways, variations to improve my deadlift from X, and then throw that in there. Okay, so that's variation. Last one's gonna be fatigue management. There's just a couple quick little things here, but the first one's gonna be gear. Yes, I'm talking about no, I'm kidding. Talking about gear. We're talking about belts, we're talking about wraps, sleeves, all that stuff. So when it comes to my day one, which is gonna be hitting my main variation or my main comp deadlift, I'm gonna gear up exactly how I would on the day of the competition. All right, so if you guys don't wear wrist or straps when you test yourself, you don't be wearing straps when you guys are going for your comp deadlift day, okay? Same thing as if you don't wear a belt or wear a belt, like you got to mimic exactly how you're going to play. So on day one, for me personally, I have my belt. Sometimes I wear my underbelt. I test with my straps, so I'm going to use my straps, and it's going to be exactly how I'm going to look and compete on the game day. Now, the way that we can manage the fatigue, okay, because we are pulling more, right? We don't want to accumulate so much fatigue through volume that we can't continue to train for a long period of time, right? We want to at least get 4 to 5 weeks in training before we take some sort of deload or low stress week. If you don't know what they are, link above. But ways we can do that is by on the variation days, okay? So probably your day 3 or day 4, I say don't wear a belt, all right? Don't wear other supportive gear. Don't wear your suit if you wear a suit, etc. And what that's going to do is probably not allow us to go as heavy as we could with that gear. So therefore, decreasing the total fatigue or systemic fatigue on our body. Now, exception to that is maybe your hands are tearing, okay? I don't want you guys destroying your hands because then it's just going to push the whole process back even further, let them heal. So maybe you got to wear straps that day. Maybe you got some low back pain or low back fatigue is just feeling it, throw the belt on if it helps you get through those training sessions. But if you don't need it, don't use it. So that's going to be on the variation days. All right, and that's how we control the intensity and the overall fatigue is by the gear that we have on when we're training. Second is going to be volume. So throughout the training block, okay, we want to make adjustments to volume accordingly to manage that fatigue as best as possible, right? We don't want to be hitting, 15, 20 reps on deadlift variation because that's super fatiguing. We could probably get away with 8 reps, right? So it's like, what's going to be the best bang for your buck, right? They may be the same overall, let's just say stimulus, but like one's going to be better than the other. So go with the one that's not going to fatigue you as much and deliver a better result. Last one, like I said, fatigue management, variations, okay? So depending on the variations that you use, they can help manage fatigue. When you look at things like a slingshot, right, for a bench press, that's not going to be as fatiguing as if you don't wear the slingshot. So same thing can be done with deadlifts, right? Block pulls, even though they're heavier, it's a shortened range of motion. So when we shorten that range of motion, we're not using as much energy. Yes, it's still heavy, but we're not pulling that weight from the ground. So we're managing fatigue throughout the variation. So just 3 points I wanted to cover and kind of my thought process behind this. Hopefully you guys are digging this and you're following along. You got your pen, your paper, you're writing it down, your brain's going. You think I'm crazy because, yeah, maybe I am. But guess what? No one got anywhere without being a little bit crazy. Fact check that on Google. So from here, what I'm going to do is basically lay down a sample little deadlift template that you guys can use for free because I'm awesome, and see if it works for you. All right, so this is the real reason why you're here is to get this program. So I laid out a 3-block program, so 12 weeks of work here, and then we can just fill in those principles that we talked about previously. So we got block 1, block 2, block 3. So when we're 12 weeks out, we're going to be able to handle more volume, okay? So we have day 1, our comp variation, day 2, our variation, day 3, our accessory. So the way I have this set up for block 1, we got 8 at 6, 8 at 7, 8 at 8, and then the volume will increase with, we have 8 at 6, 8 at 7, 8 at 8 for 2 sets for week 2 and 3, and then the last week we're going to push the intensity with the volume, so we got 8 at 7, 8 at 8, 8 at 9, all right? Now if you want, you can kind of give yourself a little bit of a low stress week. If not, continue on. We got 6 at 6, 6 at 7, 6 at 8. Then the next 2 weeks, we got 6 at 6, 6 at 7, 6 at 8 for 2. And then we drop down to 5. So 5 at 6, 5 at 7, 5 at 8 for 2. And And then 5 at 6, 5 at 7, 5 at 8 for 3, increasing that volume. If you need that low stress week, add it in here. If not, continue on. We got 5 at 6, 5 at 7, 5 at 8. Then we got 4 at 6, 4 at 7, 4 at 8. And we got 3 at 7, 3 at 8, 3 at 9. 3 at 7, 3 at 8, 3 at 9. Then we're testing. So as you can see, we start off with a lot of volume and we taper everything down and we get ready to go for our test. Now, if you want, you guys can do singles, okay? And I'll just attach a little singles chart here with the video because I have them. But if not, this is totally fine to run this as it is for our comp variation, okay? So for me, it's gonna be my conventional deadlift. If you pull sumo, that would be your sumo deadlift. If you wanna test your trap bar deadlift, that would be your trap bar deadlift, the one that we are going to test on game day. Now over here we have variation, okay? So slightly different with the RPE here. We're gonna go 8 at 7, 8 at 8, 8 at 9, so it's 3 sets. And then we're going to repeat whatever our first set was for our back off. Very simple to understand. If it felt like it was too light, then just add maybe 5 to 10 pounds onto that. And we're gonna follow that principle all the way down throughout the next several weeks. However, we're going to add some back off sets. So on week 3 and 4, the back off is gonna be for 2 sets, all right? So same rep scheme all the way through besides till the end. Then we're gonna drop the volume. So we're going 6 at 7, 6 at 8, 6 at 9. Then we're gonna go 6 at 7, 6 at 8, 6 at 9, repeat our 7, and do that for the next following weeks, but just do 2 sets to repeat. So when I have by 2, it's really 5 total sets, okay, 5 sets. Then we're going to go to the third block. We have 4 at 7, 4 at 8, 4 at 9. Keeping the volume a little bit lower because we're kind of recovering a little bit, and then we're pushing it as we go through the week. And then I am going to let you guys decide if you want to do back offs or not, depending on how your body feels. If you want to do the back offs, repeat at 7 for these last couple weeks. If not, since we're getting closer to a test, you guys should be okay with this volume. So then it just tapers down 3 at 7, 3 at 8, 3 at 9. Then it goes 2 at 7, 2 at 8, 2 at 9 for some heavy doubles. And then, of course, the last week is going to be testing week. For the accessories, so for the accessory guys, this is going to be like what I talked about. Maybe it's going to be some back work, some lat pull down, some rows, any type of pulling thing, or maybe some RDL, stiff leg deadlifts, etc. If you can handle it, we're going to increase the volume a little bit more because these are probably typically going to be less fatiguing movements, smaller muscle groups. So we're okay to handle a little bit more volume here. We're going to do 10 at 7 for 2 sets, 10 at 7 for 3 sets, 10 at 7 for 3 sets again, then 10 at 7 for 4 sets. That's a lot more volume, but like I said, we should be able to handle it because the movement's not going to be as fatiguing as like a normal deadlift. Okay, hopefully you guys are following me. Second block, we got 8 at 7, 8 at 8, and then 8 at 8 again. Then we go 8 at 7, 8 at 8, 8 at 8. Same thing for the next week. Then the last week is 8 at 7, 8 at 8, 8 at 9. So we're pushing that weight, still getting a good amount of volume in. And the volume's going to drop for that last block. And we got 4 at 7, 6 at 7 for a set, then 8, then another set of 8, and then we have 6 at 7, 6 at 8, 6 at 8. Then we have 6 at 7, 6 at 8, 6 at 9. Then we have 5 at 7, 5 at 8, 5 at 9. So that is kind of the rundown for this. So if we were going to put in some variations real quick, I'll kind of break this down. So for the comp days, it's going to be always whatever you're competing in, so you guys decide. Maybe it's going to be conventional, maybe it's going to be sumo, maybe it's going to be trap, but you guys are probably going to be somewhere in the conventional or sumo. For the variation, maybe for this first week, we're just going to do, let's just say a pause at shin for a 1 to 2 count. You pick. Then that's what we're doing for the whole variation for that block. Now the second one, maybe we're going to do block pulls. Let's just say at knee. Okay, for this whole block. And then for this last one, maybe we do, let's just say, maybe we just make it simple and we go deficit deads 1 to 2 inches. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do there. For the accessory work, maybe here we start with some pull downs. We're gonna get a little bit more specific as we go down. So let's do RDLs, and then for this last one we can either keep it RDLs or maybe we'll do some sort of row. Okay, just to keep it really simple. Not wrong or right, but this is kind of a layout of how we can go from increasing our frequency from 1 time per week to 3 times per week. Now, if you just want to increase it to 2, all you can do is either cross out the variation part or the accessory. I'd recommend keeping the variation in and crossing out that one if you didn't want to do 3 days per week, but play around with it and try it out. So, a little bit longer of a video. Hopefully you guys are staying with me, and hopefully I was making a little bit of sense. There was really not much structure. I was kind of just spitballing out of here, the noggin, the Jimmy Neutron brain that I got going on, and hopefully it's going to help you guys. So if it did, smash the like button, subscribe again. It's like the 15th time I said subscribe. If you're not subscribed, I'm coming after you. And make sure you guys, of course, check out all the programs on zatstrength.net and stay a lean, mean strength machine. Peace.